My parents insisted you wouldn't fit in at this wedding. Then they checked into the grand suite, boasting it was the most exclusive room. But from the top floor of the $300 million resort, I gave the order. Cancel the bridal suite. They're not authorized to use it. Minutes later, the lobby erupted and my phone blew up with 38 missed calls. Can you imagine being told you're not family enough for your own brother's wedding? Well, I can. But what they didn't know was that their dream wedding, this lavish event they thought they owned, was actually happening inside the very empire I built from the ground up. And oh, the poetic justice that followed. The quiet hum of the AC was barely cutting through the city noise outside my Denver office. I was just in that zone, signing contracts for Alpine Haven's summer expansion, my company, my legacy, when my phone lit up. Mom! Just seeing that name made my stomach clench. Weeks. It had been weeks, and every call from her carried that same polite, deliberate chill, colder than the Denver air itself. I took a deep breath, braced myself, and answered. Claire, she said, her voice soft, careful, like someone about to drop a stone into perfectly still water. I wanted to tell you about Ethan's wedding. I literally froze, pen hovering over a document. Then came the kicker. Oh, it'll be small. Just family, very intimate. You understand, right? The silence that followed was deafening, the only sound the ticking clock on my wall. I slowly set my pen down, watching the sunlight dance on the desk. Of course, I said, my voice barely a whisper. I understand. She let out this breath, like she just climbed a mountain. You've got so much going on with the company anyway, and honestly, it's just a different kind of atmosphere. I'm not sure you'd feel comfortable there. Different atmosphere. I almost scoffed. Right, I murmured, the word tasting like ash. She kept talking, filling the void like she always did when she was nervous. It's at a beautiful place, dear. Ethan and Sophie wanted something elegant, private. You'd love it, I think. I already knew where this was going, but I let her finish, let her dig her own hole. Anyway, we'll send photos. You'll see how beautiful it turns out. Sure, I murmured. I'm happy for them. Good, she chirped, her tone sickeningly final. I knew you'd understand. And then, the soft, clinical click of disconnection. For a long, long moment, I didn't move. The silence in that room was thick, suffocating, like the quiet after an insult you've heard too many times to even react. The city outside, usually a comfort, now felt sharp and distant. I leaned back in my chair, exhaling slowly. Family, she'd said. The word echoed in my head, small, exclusive, like a club I was never invited to join. My club. After a beat, I turned back to my laptop. A headline blinked on a hospitality newsletter tracking industry events. Ethan Morgan and Sophie Bennett to wed at the renowned Alpine Haven Resort. My blood ran cold. I just stared at the words. My fingers hovered, then a low, humorless laugh bubbled out of me. Of course, I whispered. The irony was just chef's kiss. The very family who told me I didn't fit in, the family who couldn't be bothered to invite me, had chosen my resort. The one I built from the ground up. Every single marble tile, every gleaming chandelier, every breathtaking mountain view suite. They were about to walk right into my world, my creation, without a clue. I clicked open my company dashboard, reservations, guests, and there it was. Morgan wedding party, check-in scheduled for Friday. The system even flagged them as very important person. I let my head fall back, staring at the ceiling. Sometimes I whispered to myself, they invite the whole world, except the person who built the stage. It wasn't bitter, just a fact. A cold, hard fact. Outside, the city was fading into dusk, streetlights flickering on. My reflection stared back from the glass, tailored blazer, hair pulled back, every inch the composed executive they never believed I could be. My phone buzzed again. Harper. I answered. Hey boss, you asked me to confirm this week's guest list. I just kept my eyes on the view. Yeah, anything interesting? A brief pause, some rustling papers. Let's see, corporate retreat from San Francisco, wedding party from Texas. And she hesitated. And a family named Morgan, booking the grand suite. I'm guessing you know them. I let out a breath that might have been a laugh. Yeah, I said softly. I know them. Harper's voice dropped, cautious. Do you want me to flag the reservation? No, I said, leaning forward, elbows on the desk. Keep it as is. Let's make sure everything goes smoothly. Understood. When the call ended, I just sat there. A slow, cold curve of my lips, not a smile but something else. Something steady. They hadn't invited me, and that was fine. Because soon, they would walk into my world, under my roof on my terms. The office lights automatically dimmed. I closed my laptop, walked to the window. Denver glittered below like a scattered handful of diamonds. I touched the cool glass. You built a world without me, I whispered to no one. Let's see how it feels when you have to live in mine. And then I turned off the lights, leaving just the city's glow. The next morning, pale gold sunlight washed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of my office. I was just waiting for my coffee when my phone buzzed. A notification. Morgan wedding weekend officially begins. The first image popped up. Ethan and Sophie, beaming under an archway of white orchids, mountains blurred behind them. Sophie's caption, all neat and sugary. The perfect start to forever. And right underneath, my mother's comment. So proud of our son. Dad's heart emoji. That was it. No mention of me. I took a sip of my coffee. It was already cold. My stomach clenched. That familiar knot of seeing their perfect public smiles, their practice performance of family unity. They'd gotten good at posing without me. Harper slid through the door, iPad in hand, her brown hair in a messy bun. Morning, she said, a little too carefully. I ran through the event list. There's something you might want to see. She handed me the tablet. The Alpine Haven booking interface glowed. Morgan wedding party, 4 nights, grand bridal suite. And then the kicker. Special rate code applied. Harper lowered her voice. They used a corporate discount under Alpine Haven's internal partner program. My eyes narrowed. Who authorized it? She swiped to the contract page. Linda Morgan, she read aloud. Signed as authorized by family. I stared at the screen, then handed it back. Family has a lot of definitions in my world, I said finally. Harper frowned. Do you want me to fix it? Flag it to accounting? I shook my head. Not yet. Let them have their perfect weekend. She hesitated, clearly wanting to say more, but just nodded and slipped out. The game was on. I walked over to the wall of framed photos, portraits of our resorts across Colorado, Utah, Montana. Each one was a decade of my life. Sleepless nights, gut-wrenching risks. I stopped at an 8-year-old picture of Alpine Haven's opening ceremony. I was there, smiling for the camera, just at the edge of a crowd, anonymous. Even then, my family hadn't shown up for the ribbon cutting. I ran a finger along the cool glass. Different atmosphere, dear. You wouldn't fit in. Mom's voice echoed in my head. The irony was so thick, I almost laughed out loud. I went back to my desk. My coffee was bitter now, but I drank it. My inbox pinged. Subject: Invoice confirmation Morgan wedding. I opened it. Wedding charge: $48,000. Charge to the Alpine Haven corporate account. My corporate account. My money. Used by the very people who decided I wasn't family enough to attend. I leaned back, letting the absurdity wash over me. A small, humorless laugh escaped. Perfect, I murmured. Out there, somewhere in those mountains, my brother and his fiancée were getting ready to check into the resort they believed belonged to someone else. Posing for photos, sipping champagne, telling guests how proud their parents were. I closed the email, set the tablet aside. Let them, I whispered. Let them have their perfect pictures. The first black SUV rolled up the curved driveway just as the morning light spilled over the peaks. From my office window, it looked like a travel brochure, the lake shimmering, Alpine Haven's glass facade reflecting the sky. The staff, in their pressed uniforms, lined up, smiling as if they'd rehearsed for weeks. As the car doors opened, I recognized them instantly. Ethan, in an immaculate gray suit. Sophie, all styled perfection in her white jumpsuit, camera crew already trailing her. My mom, Linda, next, hair sprayed into place, wearing the same radiant smile she wore to every charity event. Dad adjusted his jacket, surveying the resort like a man about to buy the place. Welcome to Alpine Haven Resort, Mr. and Mrs. Morgan, the concierge said, warm and professional. "We're honored to host your family this weekend." Mom laughed, waving a manicured hand. "It's beautiful. Just like the photos." She turned to the cameras. "Isn't this incredible, Sophie?" Sophie, already live streaming on her phone, grinned. "Guys, we just arrived at the most gorgeous resort in Colorado. Wait until you see the view from our suite." I watched through the tinted glass, coffee in hand. Harper stood behind me, tablet open, her voice low. They requested white orchids, premium champagne, and a snow peak view instead of the valley. Also, the bridal balcony for their welcome video. I didn't even turn around. "Approve everything," I said. "Everything." Harper sounded surprised. "Give them what they think they deserve." She paused, then said, "Okay." Outside, Mom posed by the fountain, arm linked with Ethan. Sophie twirled for the camera. Their entourage filmed everything: the chandeliers, the polished floors, the hand-carved maple banisters. I could faintly hear their voices through the security feed. Compliments, laughter, small talk. Sophie's voice cut through most clearly. "This is going to be a dream wedding." I smiled faintly. "Dreams," I murmured, "have their costs." Downstairs, the marble lobby gleamed. Every piece of furniture, every detail, designed for warmth and luxury. Soft leather chairs, woven carpets, a grand piano. It was a space meant to make guests feel small, yet special. And Mom, of course, thrived in places like that. I switched screens on my wall monitor. The Morgans in the elevator, laughing. Sophie adjusting her hair. Ethan checking his reflection. Dad scrolling emails. "Same old performance," I murmured. Harper looked up. "Sorry." "Nothing," I said quickly. "Just watching old habits." A knock. Peter, the operations manager, stepped in, a folder in hand. "Morning, Miss Morgan. The VIP arrival form you requested." He handed it to Harper, who scanned it, then froze. "Claire," she said carefully, "you'll want to see this." I took the folder. There it was, our corporate check-in form. Signed in confident cursive, Linda Morgan, co-owner, Alpine Haven Resorts. I stared at it. Then a quiet laugh escaped me, startling both Peter and Harper. Peter shifted awkwardly. "Should I report this to legal?" I closed the folder, setting it gently on the desk. "No," I said. "Not yet." Harper frowned. She actually signed as co-owner? Apparently. I leaned back. That's a new level of confidence, even for my mother. Outside, the family moved through the atrium. Sophie filming every angle, from the marble floors to the mountain light. "This is perfection." Mom's voice, faintly audible through the security audio. "Your father and I should come here more often. It feels like it was made for us." I glanced at Harper, who was watching me. "She's not wrong," I said. "It was." For the next hour, I watched the flurry. Staff escorting them to the grand suite, photographers clicking, floral designers rushing with orchids. They were creating their picture-perfect moment, every detail meticulously staged. On one monitor, Mom was at the front desk, laughing with the concierge, as if her name truly carried weight. She'd always been good at that, turning pretense into presence. "Mom, come stand by the fireplace for this one." Sophie's voice rose. "The lighting's amazing." I switched the feed off. "Harper," I said quietly, "send the spa team. Offer them the best welcome treatment. Champagne. The snow suite. Upgrade everything." Harper blinked. "You're really giving them the full treatment?" "Yes," I said, standing, moving to the wide glass windows. "Let them have it all. Every indulgence they think belongs to them." She closed her tablet, uncertain. "What's your endgame here?" I looked out at the peaks, their white edges sharp against the blue sky. "Nothing dramatic," I said. "Just perspective." For a moment, silence. Then my phone buzzed. An internal notification from accounting. Another authorization form attached. The same forged signature, this time approving a shipment of imported champagne. I chuckled softly, shaking my head. She really thinks she's the owner. Harper raised an eyebrow. "And you find that funny?" "Almost poetic," I said. "They spent years pretending I wasn't part of this family. Now they've built their big moment on my name and still don't know it." Harper studied me, but I didn't elaborate. Outside, the family was on the terrace. Wind catching Sophie's veil, photographers snapping away. Mom adjusting flowers. Dad checking his watch. Ethan smiling on cue. Through the glass, they looked cinematic, like the happy family portrait they'd always wanted. My own reflection was faint, distant, a shadow against the bright view. My face calm, my eyes unflinching. Harper placed the signed contract back on the desk. The gold ink gleamed. Perfect timing, I murmured. A forged signature, a borrowed title, and a perfect family photo. Couldn't ask for a better setup. Harper's brows knit. Set up for what? I smiled, not turning. For them to meet the real owner. I tapped the folder. Fake ownership, I whispered. Harper said nothing. The silence between us was thin, sharp as glass. Down below, the Morgans posed. Sophie blew a kiss. Mom beamed. And Ethan, just for a second, looked up at the building, toward the top floor where I stood. For a fleeting moment, our eyes might have met through the glass. Then he turned away, smiling for someone else. I exhaled slowly. Let the show begin. The morning of the wedding began with music. Faint violin notes drifted up from the courtyard where staff were setting up an archway. The air was cool, scented with pine. It should have been a beautiful day. In every visible way it was. Then Harper burst through my door, a file in her hand, her face tight. "Claire," she said, breathless. "We have a problem." I didn't look up right away. My screens showed a dozen windows. Reservations, security feeds, expense reports. The Morgans' name appeared more times than I cared to count. What kind of problem? She dropped the folder on my desk. They used the Alpine Haven corporate card again. Champagne upgrade, additional floral arrangements, decor rentals, and a live string quartet. All charged this morning. I scrolled through the digital log. The authorization signature blinked at the bottom of each invoice. Linda Morgan. I almost smiled. They're consistent, at least. Harper folded her arms. You said to let them have what they wanted. But this is fraud, Claire. That's your company's money. I leaned back, feeling the weight of her words. Sunlight hit the glass outside in blinding white. They used company assets, I said slowly, and signed my name through hers. Harper nodded. Exactly. So what do you want me to do? I closed my eyes for a few seconds, listening to the faint hum of the resort beneath us. The footsteps, the music, the laughter. Then I opened my eyes. Cancel the bridal suite. Effective immediately. List the reason as unauthorized booking under a fraudulent signature. Harper blinked, her face paling. What? That's the main room for ceremony prep. Sophie's been live streaming from there all morning. Are you sure? Yes. My voice was even. It's time they learned what boundaries look like. She hesitated, searching my expression. You're really doing this? I'm not doing anything, I said quietly. I'm just enforcing company policy. Harper stared at me, then nodded slowly and turned. All right. I watched her go, the click of her heels fading. For a few seconds, I sat in the silence she left behind. My pulse steady, my hands folded neatly on the desk. This wasn't revenge. It was accountability, something they'd never learned to respect. When the email confirmation pinged on my screen, I exhaled almost soundlessly. The order had gone through. The grand bridal suite was now officially revoked. Downstairs, the staff would already be getting the update. I switched the monitor to the lobby feed. There they were, Ethan and Sophie at the front desk, surrounded by planners and photographers. Ethan on the phone, pacing. Sophie in her silk robe, makeup half done, leaning over the counter. The concierge, a young man, smiled nervously, typing. I'm so sorry, ma'am, but it appears your suite has been deactivated. There's a flag from corporate. We're not authorized to check you in. Sophie blinked, total confusion. What does that mean? We're the bridal couple. It's our room. Ethan leaned forward, indignant. This is ridiculous. My mother handled the booking. Yes, sir, the concierge said carefully. That's part of the issue. A thick, uncomfortable silence. Then Mom's voice, sharp and commanding, cut through the speakers. Excuse me, she announced, stepping forward. I'm Linda Morgan. My husband and I are the owners of this property. You will fix this immediately. The concierge swallowed, but held his ground. Of course, Mrs. Morgan, but according to our records, ownership is listed differently. Ethan's tone rose. Do you know who we are? The concierge straightened his tie. Yes, sir. And that's exactly why we have to follow procedure. Sophie's face flushed bright red. This can't be happening. My followers are expecting the bridal suite reveal. You people are ruining my wedding. The lobby started to buzz. Guests paused mid-conversation. The string quartet trailed off. Even the camera crew hesitated, unsure whether to keep filming. Mom's voice dropped to a furious hiss. Call the manager. Now. They already did, I murmured to myself. Harper appeared, speaking quietly with the concierge, then took a deep breath and stepped forward. Mrs. Morgan, the decision came from corporate headquarters in Denver. I'm afraid the booking violated policy. Mom stared at her. Policy? I am the policy here. Harper stayed composed, though I saw the flicker of nerves. I'm sorry, ma'am. The authorization has been revoked by executive order. For a heartbeat, the entire lobby froze. Then Ethan slammed his hand on the counter. This is insane. I'll have your job for this. Sophie started crying, a loud, dramatic sob that drew eyes from every corner. A bridesmaid whispered into her phone, clearly recording. I turned off the sound, leaned back in my chair, that faint smile returning. The screen showed pure chaos. The kind of chaos they'd always believed they were immune to. The intercom buzzed. Harper's voice, controlled but shaky. It's done. They know. Good, I said. Let the staff keep things calm. No further engagement. She hesitated. Do you want me to unlock the suite later? No, I said. They'll stay exactly where they are. Let them experience imperfection for once. I ended the call and glanced back at the muted feed. Mom was trying to pull herself together, whispering furiously into her phone. Ethan paced. Sophie's tears turned to angry shouting. From a distance, it looked theatrical, even absurd. But beneath it all, I recognized something I hadn't seen in them for years: uncertainty. The moment when control slips through your fingers and you don't know how to get it back. I switched off the monitor, sat in the quiet again. Outside, the morning sun climbed higher, spilling light over the peaks. Somewhere below, the wedding staff scrambled to recover, to keep guests distracted, to make the day beautiful again. I knew they would. That's what people do when the illusion cracks. They patch it up fast and pretend nothing broke. I picked up my phone. One new message from Harper. Lobby is contained. Guests unsettled but calm. The Morgans are demanding to speak to ownership. I typed back. Ownership is busy. Then I set the phone down, stood and walked to the window. The lake sparkled like glass under the sun. I could faintly hear the string quartet starting up again, music returning to fill the void. For the first time that day, I let myself smile. Quiet, steady, certain. They wanted a perfect wedding, I said softly. Now they'll learn what perfection costs. By noon, the lobby was pure chaos. The morning's music was gone, replaced by angry voices echoing through the vaulted ceilings. Guests clustered around the cafe, pretending not to watch, but mesmerized. Sophie was at the center, mascara streaked, phone clutched in a trembling hand. This is ridiculous, she shrieked. Do you even know who we are? Ethan paced behind her, phone to his ear. Mom, calm down, he muttered, though his own voice was shaky. Mom wasn't listening. Linda Morgan slammed her palm against the marble counter. I will sue you, she yelled at the concierge. This is defamation. Humiliation. You can't treat us like this. The concierge, bless his soul, didn't flinch. I'm very sorry, ma'am, but the system has flagged the booking as invalid. It's out of my hands. Out of your hands, she repeated, incredulous. Where are your owners? My husband and I own this property. Across the lobby, a group of travel journalists had just arrived, among them Emily Rodas, a reporter with a camera always ready. She raised an eyebrow, catching the scene. Who are they? She whispered to the event coordinator. The Morgans. VIP guests. Apparently, their wedding suite was canceled. Emily's eyes widened, a smile tugging at her lips. Seriously? The coordinator nodded nervously. Emily's camera was already rolling. From the mezzanine balcony, I watched it all. Staff trying to calm them. Guests gawking. Sophie's perfect composure cracking on camera. Harper stood next to me, watching the same scene on the monitors. She glanced over. Do you want me to stop the feed? I shook my head slowly, my eyes fixed on the screen. No, they're writing their own ending. I'm just watching it happen. On the main monitor, Sophie's voice rose again. Who canceled my suite? I demand to know. The concierge hesitated. According to the system, the order came directly from corporate management. What does that even mean? She snapped. It means, he said, choosing his words carefully, that the decision came from the Denver headquarters. From the top. Ethan turned sharply to Mom. Did you do this? Did you talk to someone? Mom's jaw tightened. Of course not. Why would I cancel my own son's wedding? He ran a hand through his hair and swore under his breath. Then who the hell did? In the corner, Emily whispered to her cameraman. Keep rolling. Mom straightened, fury hardening her tone. Call Claire, she said. She works for this place. She'll know who to talk to. Sophie sniffed, wiping her mascara-streaked cheeks. Claire. You mean that Claire? Yes. Mom snapped. Call her. Ethan hesitated, but dialed. The faint, distinct ring tone filled the air. Everyone heard it. Upstairs, my phone lit up. Ethan Morgan calling. For a moment, I just watched it buzz, his name bright and insistent. Harper turned to me. Are you going to answer? I picked up the phone, studied his name, then set it back down, face up. The vibration continued, then stopped. The silence afterward was heavier than the ringing. Downstairs, Ethan frowned at his phone. She's not picking up. Mom's voice rose, sharp enough to cut glass. Of course she's not. She's probably too busy doing God knows what. We should have known better than to trust her with anything important. Sophie gasped softly, as if a thought had just clicked. Wait, what if she's the reason this happened? Maybe she's jealous. Jealous! Ethan shot her a look, but Sophie was already speaking to the camera crew, who'd started filming again. We've been treated so unfairly, she said tearfully. We came here in good faith, and now they're sabotaging our wedding. I'll make sure people know. Emily adjusted her lens, catching every second. Upstairs, Harper's voice broke through the quiet. They're losing it. The journalists are filming, guests are recording, and social media is going to explode in about 5 minutes. I took a slow sip of coffee. It will, I said. That's the beauty of it. We watched as Mom turned back to the concierge, her voice trembling with outrage. You don't understand. We are Alpine Haven. My husband is Robert Morgan. That name means something here. The concierge looked genuinely sympathetic. I understand, ma'am, but according to the records, ownership belongs to Alpine Haven Holdings, registered in Denver under CEO Claire Morgan. The entire lobby seemed to inhale at once. Mom froze. What did you just say? The concierge hesitated, realizing too late what he'd revealed. It's company policy to clarify in case of conflict. Ethan's face drained of color. That can't be right. Sophie's voice broke. So she's the one. Mom turned away sharply, her voice dropping to a whisper. I could still hear it through the speakers. No, that's not possible. But it was. Harper looked at me, eyes wide. Do you want me to intervene? We could still. I shook my head. No. Leave it. Claire, your mother's about to. She's about to learn, I said softly. On the screen, Mom gripped the counter, the composure she'd worn like armor beginning to crack. Dad had appeared now, his face tight with embarrassment. Linda, he said quietly, let's step outside. She jerked away from his hand. Don't you dare tell me to calm down. Sophie's sobs turned to hiccups. Ethan stood rigid, phone in hand, staring at nothing. Around them, guests whispered, phones lifted, cameras flashed. I picked up my phone again. Another call. Ethan's name flashing. I watched it ring once, twice, 3 times. Then I flipped it over, silencing it. The room around me was still, save for the low hum of the monitors. I could see everything. Every fractured smile, every panicked gesture, every desperate attempt to salvage the image they'd built. I spoke quietly, almost to myself. Sometimes silence costs more than words ever could. The phone stopped vibrating. Downstairs, the chaos continued, a perfectly orchestrated unraveling. I turned back to the window, sunlight spilling across the mountains, the resort glittering beneath me. Somewhere below, my family fought to control the narrative. They still hadn't realized the story was already over, and I didn't have to say a single word to end it. 3 hours later, the world knew everything. By mid-afternoon, my phone was blowing up. Alerts, mentions, headlines, push notifications. Twitter had turned the Morgan family's meltdown into prime entertainment. The hashtag Morgan wedding disaster was trending nationally, nestled between celebrity gossip and political scandals. Emily Rotus's video from the lobby was everywhere. Her voiceover was calm, almost chillingly cutting. At the Alpine Haven Resort this morning, the Morgan family, who claimed to own the property, were denied access to the bridal suite by corporate headquarters. Sources confirmed the resort's ownership lies elsewhere. The clip cut to my mother's voice, sharp and furious. "We own this place." Then the concierge's soft, firm reply. "Actually, ma'am, that's not accurate." The image froze on Mom's stunned, horrified expression before fading to black. The internet had already turned it into memes, GIFs, reaction videos. At Denver HQ, I sat watching the chaos unfold on 3 different news streams. Harper stood by the window, scrolling her phone. "They've turned it into a trend," she said quietly. One headline says, "Family confuses resort ownership with entitlement and gets denied at the altar." I didn't look up. Catchy. A new alert flashed. Abigail Green calling. I accepted. Her voice was clipped tight. "You told me there wouldn't be a scandal." "There isn't," I said. "Claire, your family is on every major outlet in the country." "Yes," I said evenly. "My family. Not the company. Not me." "I can't have this," she snapped. "If this affects valuation, if it touches our investors," "Abigail," I interrupted. "If you think this changes anything about Alpine Haven's worth, maybe you should reconsider why you invested in the first place." A pause. "Don't get clever with me. If this goes south, I walk." I leaned back. "Then you'll walk away from a company with the most transparent leadership in the country. The one whose CEO refused to fake anything, even her own family." For a long moment, all I heard was her breathing. "You're playing with fire." "Maybe," I said. "But at least I built the fireplace." The line went dead. Harper turned from the window. "That went well." I smiled faintly. "About as well as I expected." She hesitated. "PR is asking how to respond. Reporters are calling nonstop. Do you want to make a statement?" "They're already telling the truth," I said. "It just took a camera for anyone to believe it." Harper nodded slowly. "Still, it's spreading fast. Someone leaked that the CEO's name matches your mother's maiden name. People are speculating." "They'll keep guessing," I said. "And when they realize, they'll stop laughing." Outside, the Denver skyline shimmered. The city's hum felt far away, like a different life. My computer pinged with a new message. From Ethan. I clicked it open. "Claire," it began. "If you have anything to do with this, please stop. Mom hasn't eaten since this morning. She's in shock. She keeps saying she didn't know. You've made your point. Please just fix it." I read it twice. Then I deleted it. Harper was watching me carefully. "Something from him?" "Nothing important," I said. She didn't push. The news anchors' voices filled the room again, dissecting my family's implosion like a political debate. One reporter gestured to the Alpine Haven lobby, looping endlessly behind him. Sources suggest the Morgans attempted to leverage familial influence to gain access to restricted suites. However, corporate records show the resort's ownership has no legal connection to the family. The true CEO remains unnamed. I turned off the sound and leaned back, closing my eyes. In my mind, I saw Mom's face again. That look of disbelief, the panic just before the cameras caught it. I could almost hear her voice. "This isn't who we are." But it was. It always had been. The office was quiet except for the faint ticking of the clock. Harper finally spoke. "You know they're going to try to spin this. They'll say it was a misunderstanding, that you're overreacting. They've spent their whole lives rewriting stories," I said. "This time, they don't hold the pen." She studied me. "You're calm." "I've been calm my whole life," I said softly. "That's what they mistook for weakness." Another message appeared, from the resort manager. "The Morgans have checked out of their rooms. They left without paying the balance. Do you want to pursue it legally?" I typed back. "No. Let them leave owing something. That's the closest they'll ever come to balance." Harper set a fresh cup of coffee beside me. You should eat something. I'm fine. You've been staring at that screen for 3 hours. I built what they try to fake, I said. I can stare at it as long as I want. She sighed but didn't argue. When she left, I walked to the window. The sun was lower now, streaking gold across the skyline. My reflection was faint, still composed, unbothered. My phone vibrated again. Another message from Ethan. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. I already knew the tone. Apology wrapped in guilt, a plea disguised as family. I let it buzz until it stopped. They only remember you, I said quietly, when you become the story they can't control. I pulled up the live news feed one last time. Analysts debated Alpine Haven stock. The ticker read, CEO remains silent amid scandal. Silent. It was the first time silence had ever sounded like victory. The office dimmed. I let the glow from the monitors fade. 4 years, I'd been the quiet one, the background, the afterthought. Now my silence was the headline, and they finally had to listen. By late afternoon, the mountains outside my office had turned gold, the sun dipping behind the ridge, casting long, slanted beams through the windows. I was reviewing a contract when there was a soft knock. Peter, the operations manager, stepped in looking uneasy. Miss Morgan, he said. The Morgan family is here. They're requesting to see you. I checked the clock. 5:43 p.m. Send them up, I said. He nodded and disappeared. I stood still, looking out the window at the horizon. The resort below looked calm again. Guests by the fire pit, staff moving quietly, the kind of peace that usually follows a storm. When the elevator doors finally opened, that calm shattered. Mom came in first, her face drawn tight, the practiced poise of the morning replaced by sheer exhaustion. Dad followed, jaw clenched, one hand on her shoulder. Ethan trailed behind them, head bowed. I didn't move. Mom stopped in front of my desk, her voice uncertain, almost a whisper. Claire, you're the CEO. I met her eyes. For 8 years now. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Dad broke the silence, his voice firm but with a raw edge. We just wanted the day to go smoothly. We wanted a perfect wedding for your brother. He looked at me, a flicker of accusation in his eyes. You could have told us. Told you what? I asked quietly, my voice barely a ripple in the stillness. That I exist? That I built something without your permission? He flinched. Just barely. I reached for the folder on my desk, laid it open. Here, I said, turning it towards them. A copy of the wedding invoice. The one paid with corporate funds. The one signed by Mom. Her hand trembled as she looked down at the page. I just wanted to make sure everything was handled. I didn't think it would matter whose name. It matters. I cut her off, my tone staying calm, controlled. It matters when you forge signatures. It matters when you spend someone else's money. It matters when you lie. Her eyes filled with tears. Claire, please. I only wanted Ethan to have one perfect day. He's worked so hard. And I haven't. I asked softly, a sharp edge in my voice. I built this company from nothing, Mom. Every single brick, every piece of glass in this building has my name behind it. But you never thought I was the kind of person who could create something worth your attention. She shook her head, tears streaming now. That's not true. Isn't it? I pressed. You called this place beautiful before you knew who built it. But if you'd known it was mine, you wouldn't have come. The words hung there, heavy and undeniable. No one dared to move. Ethan finally stepped forward, his voice low, raw. I'm sorry, Claire. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I didn't even know you owned Alpine Haven until today. I looked at him. My little brother, the golden boy who never had to fight for a seat at the table. That's the problem, Ethan, I said. You never asked. You never cared to know. You've spent your whole life believing that I was just lucky to be nearby. He swallowed hard, eyes dropping to the floor. You're right. The only sound was the clock on the wall, ticking towards 6. Harper stood silently in the corner, a silent witness. Dad cleared his throat. We can. Make this right. We'll release a statement. Correct the misunderstanding. You don't have to, I said, closing the folder sharply, the sound cutting through his words. No, you don't fix this with a statement. You fix it by telling the truth. Dad frowned. The truth? Yes, I said. That you forged documents to use company money. That you humiliated yourselves in public because you thought pretending was safer than being honest. That you've been living off appearances for so long, you forgot what real looks like. Mom's lip trembled. Claire, please. You don't understand. I understand perfectly, I said. I've understood for years. The silence deepened. Ethan rubbed his forehead. Mom started crying softly, and Dad turned his gaze to the floor. When I finally spoke again, my voice was quieter. You wanted a perfect wedding. You got your spectacle. And now everyone's seen who you really are. Mom looked up, mascara smudged, her voice breaking. I never meant to hurt you. I know, I said. You just never meant to see me either. The room went still again. Harper shifted slightly, but stayed back. I pushed the folder aside. I'm not filing charges, I said. But you should know. I could. That's what forgery means, Mom. Fraud. A real court case, not a family argument. She looked horrified. You wouldn't. No, I said. Because unlike you, I don't need to prove I'm better. I just need the truth to stand on its own. Her sobs filled the quiet space. Dad reached out as if to comfort her, but stopped halfway. Ethan whispered, What happens now? Nothing, I said simply. You go home. You live your lives. Maybe this time you'll remember that owning something doesn't make it yours. For a long moment, no one moved. Finally, Mom turned away, shoulders shaking. Dad led her toward the door, his hand heavy on her arm. Ethan lingered a few seconds longer, his eyes searching mine. I really am sorry, Claire, he said quietly. I nodded once. I know. He hesitated, then followed them out. When the door clicked shut, the silence returned, thicker than before. Harper exhaled softly. You okay? I sat back in my chair, eyes on the empty doorway. I'm fine, I said, though my voice felt distant. She looked at me, then nodded. You did what you had to. Did I? I murmured. Harper didn't answer. I turned toward the window. The last light of the day was fading, casting long shadows. The air smelled faintly of rain and cold glass. Somewhere below, the staff was preparing for the evening reception, trying to make the place feel normal again. But up here, the air was still thick with everything left unsaid. I ran a hand along the edge of the desk. I don't need their apology, I said quietly. I just needed the truth to sit in the same room with them for once. Harper didn't reply. She didn't have to. The truth was sitting right here with me. A few weeks later, the air in the valley had changed. The snow had thinned, replaced by sunlight that glowed soft and gold against the peaks. The resort hummed with its usual rhythm now, staff smiling, guests laughing, glasses clinking. But this day wasn't about luxury. It was about something simpler, something new. We stood in front of Aurora Hall, just beyond the main lodge. Its tall windows caught the light like mirrors. This used to be an old service wing, but we rebuilt it into a space for community events, a place open to anyone who needed it. The brass letters above the doors gleamed. Aurora Hall, a home for all voices. I arrived early, the crisp air biting gently. Workers were setting up tables with fresh flowers and pastries, laughter drifting up from the courtyard. Guests began to arrive, women from small towns who'd built their own businesses, longtime Alpine Haven employees, volunteers from local shelters. Harper spotted me from the stage, checking the mic. She smiled. They're all here for you, you know. They're here for themselves, I said, straightening my note cards. That's the point. By noon, the courtyard was full. Harper took the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, she began, her voice carrying easily. Today, we celebrate more than a new building. We celebrate the idea that silence can be transformed into strength, that closed doors can lead to better ones. She turned to me, her eyes warm. Please welcome the woman who turned silence into a legacy, Claire Morgan. The applause came like a wave, gentle at first, then growing, steady, human. I walked to the podium, the wind brushing my hair back. For a moment, I just looked at them, the faces in the crowd, the laughter, the sense of belonging that filled the space. Thank you, I said quietly into the microphone. Aurora Hall isn't about me. It's about what happens when people are told they don't belong, and decide to build anyway. A hush settled. I could feel the weight of the moment, the shared understanding. When I started Alpine Haven, I continued. I thought success meant being seen. But I learned something different. I learned that real success is when you create a place where everyone feels welcome, even if no one ever claps for you. I looked out at the mountains, their peaks burning bright under the sun. Aurora Hall is for anyone who's been turned away, overlooked, or told they weren't enough. You don't need an invitation to walk through these doors. Just belief. Belief in yourself and in what you can build. The audience was quiet, listening. I saw some nodding, some wiping their eyes. This, I said, gesturing around us, is proof that the things meant to break us can become the foundation for something better. Sometimes the silence they give you isn't rejection. It's space to build your own voice. When I stepped back, Harper hugged me quickly. The applause swelled, mixing with music. For the next hour, I wandered among the guests, talking to small business owners and community leaders. A baker from Wyoming grabbed my hand. You have no idea how much this means to us. Someone finally built something for people like us. I smiled. That's all I ever wanted to do. As the sun dipped lower, Harper joined me on the balcony, coffee in hand. The valley shimmered in amber light. So, she said, what's next? I looked at the horizon. More places like this, I said, for anyone who's ever had a door closed in their face. I want them to know they can build new ones. Harper smiled. You really think one person can change all that? No, I said, but one person can start. We stood there, saying nothing. Laughter from the courtyard drifted up, light and real. Below, guests took photos, silhouettes framed by the day's last light. The wind picked up, carrying the scent of pine and snow. I breathed it in, letting the tension I'd carried for years dissolve into the air. Inside the hall, the lights flickered on, warm gold against the twilight. Aurora Hall glowed softly above the entrance. I stepped forward onto the balcony, the cold air brushing my skin. I watched as evening settled over the valley, the mountains turning deep blue. For the first time in a long time, I felt still. Not waiting, not proving, just being. They said I wasn't invited. I murmured, my voice almost carried by the wind. They said I didn't belong. But every door they closed taught me how to build another one. The last of the sunlight slid behind the ridge, bathing the resort in a soft golden haze. Down below, Aurora Hall gleamed like a lantern against the snow. If they tell you you're not invited, build the place they'll wish they never left. The camera of memory seemed to pull back then. The resort framed by mountains, the windows glowing, laughter echoing faintly. I stayed there, watching the light fade, knowing that this time, the silence didn't mean exclusion. It meant peace. This entire journey was about finding my voice in the quiet spaces and transforming every rejection into a foundation. It makes me wonder, have you ever felt like you didn't belong, only to realize you were meant to build your own world? Tell me your story in the comments below. I'd really love to hear it.